Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that every human being on Earth has disappeared. No traffic, no voices, no footsteps, no messages, just silence. Ethan opened his eyes at exactly 7:15 in the morning. At first, everything seemed completely normal. Sunlight entered through the curtains. The refrigerator hummed quietly. A clock ticked on the wall, but something felt wrong. His phone was completely silent. Normally, by this time, Ethan would already have dozens of messages. He picked up his phone. Nothing. No notifications, no missed calls, no new messages. He tried calling his sister. The call failed. He tried again. Nothing. Ethan slowly walked toward the window. He opened the curtains and froze. The streets below were completely empty. Hundreds of cars were parked along the roads. Traffic lights were changing normally, but there wasn't a single person anywhere. Ethan stared at the city. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. He grabbed his jacket and ran outside. "Hello!" His voice echoed between the buildings, but nobody answered. He ran into the nearest apartment building. He knocked on doors, one after another. Nothing. Some doors were unlocked. Inside, everything looked normal. Breakfast was still sitting on kitchen tables. Televisions were still playing. Coffee cups were still sitting beside beds. It looked like everyone had simply disappeared in the middle of their morning. Ethan ran back outside. Maybe there had been an emergency. Maybe the government had evacuated the city. Maybe everyone had been moved somewhere else. But there were no warning signs, no emergency broadcasts, no military vehicles, no explosions, nothing. Just an empty city. Ethan began searching. He visited police stations, hospitals, train stations, shopping malls, airports. Everywhere he went, there was nobody. At the hospital, Ethan discovered something strange. A handwritten note was lying on an empty desk. Only 4 words were written on it. "Don't trust the signal." Ethan stared at the message. He had no idea what it meant. Then he heard something. A faint sound. Static. Ethan slowly turned toward a nearby room. The sound was coming from an old emergency radio. He walked closer. The static became louder. Then suddenly, a voice came through. "If anyone can hear this..." Ethan froze. "You are not alone." His heart began beating faster. Someone was alive. Ethan grabbed the radio. "Who are you?" There was no answer. He tried again. "Where are you?" Only static. Then the voice returned. This time it gave him a series of numbers, coordinates. Ethan quickly wrote them down. Then the transmission disappeared. For the first time since the world had gone silent, Ethan felt hope. Someone was out there. He packed food, water, batteries, a flashlight, and a small first aid kit. Then he left the city. The coordinates led him toward an abandoned industrial area several kilometers away. The farther Ethan traveled, the stranger everything became. Cars were abandoned in the middle of the roads. Some doors were still open. Some engines were still running. But there were no people, not even a single body. It was as if humanity had vanished in one instant. After several hours of walking, Ethan reached a mountain. Hidden behind thick vegetation was a massive concrete structure, an old military research facility. The entrance was partially open. Ethan stood outside for a moment. Every instinct told him to turn around, but the radio signal was coming from inside. So he stepped through the entrance. The doors closed behind him. Darkness surrounded him. Ethan turned on his flashlight. A long corridor stretched ahead. His footsteps echoed through the empty facility. Every few seconds, a light flickered above him. Then the radio became active again. "Keep walking." Ethan stopped. He looked around. "Who are you?" The voice answered. "You're almost there." Ethan continued walking. Eventually, he reached a massive control room. Hundreds of old computer screens covered the walls. Most of them were completely dead. But when Ethan entered, one screen suddenly turned on, then another, then another. Soon, dozens of screens were glowing. They showed cities from around the world. New York, Tokyo, London, Delhi, Paris, Los Angeles. Every city was empty. Ethan stepped closer. Then one screen changed. It showed his apartment. Ethan stared at it. The camera was positioned inside his bedroom, but there were no cameras in his apartment. Then another screen turned on. It showed Ethan walking through the same hallway he had just walked through. But something was wrong. The recording was dated 3 days in the future. Ethan stepped backward. He didn't understand. He searched the computer system. Thousands of files appeared. Most were labeled with dates. He opened one. A man's voice began speaking. Ethan immediately recognized it. It was his own voice. Day 47. Ethan stopped breathing. The recording continued. If you're hearing this, don't open the final door. Ethan slowly looked toward the end of the control room. There was a massive steel door. He opened another recording. His own voice spoke again. I thought I was the last human too. A pause. I was wrong. Ethan felt a cold chill run through his body. Then something moved behind him. He turned around. Nothing. The steel door suddenly unlocked. A deep metallic sound echoed through the facility. Ethan stepped backward. The radio came alive. Don't go inside. It was his own voice. Ethan stared at the door. He knew he should leave, but he had spent days searching for answers. And now, the answers were right in front of him. He slowly walked toward the door. It opened. Behind it was an enormous underground chamber. Thousands of screens covered the walls. Each screen showed a different version of Earth. On one screen, the machine was never designed to destroy humanity. It was designed to move humanity. Ethan couldn't understand. The recording continued. Scientists discovered that Earth was approaching an event that would eventually make human life impossible. So they created a machine capable of moving humanity into another timeline. But something went wrong. Everyone was transferred. Everyone except you. Ethan stared at the screens. Then he whispered, "Why me?" The recording went silent. Then another voice answered, "Because you were never supposed to survive." Ethan slowly turned around. A man was standing behind him. Ethan raised his flashlight. The man stepped into the light, and Ethan's heart nearly stopped. It was him, another Ethan. Same face, same eyes, same scar, same clothes. Ethan couldn't move. The other Ethan looked exhausted. He whispered, "You're the latest one." Ethan finally found his voice. "How many of me are there?" The other Ethan pointed toward the screens. "Enough to know how this ends." Ethan looked around the chamber. Every version of himself had reached this room. Every version had discovered the truth. Every version had tried to return home. And every version had failed. The other Ethan walked toward a control panel. "There are 3 doors." 3 enormous doors slowly appeared from the darkness. The first was marked past, the second future, and the third home. Only one door can return humanity. Ethan looked at him. "Which one?" The other Ethan gave him a sad smile. "That's the problem. Nobody knows." Suddenly, alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed across the chamber. A countdown appeared on the main screen. 10 minutes. Ethan looked at the 3 doors. The other, Ethan shouted, "Choose!" Ethan closed his eyes. He remembered his sister, his childhood, his parents, his old apartment, the ordinary life he had once taken for granted. Then he opened his eyes. Home. The door began to open. A blinding white light filled the chamber. Ethan felt his body being pulled forward. Thousands of voices surrounded him. Then everything went silent. Ethan opened his eyes. He was lying in the middle of a city street. Cars were moving. People were walking. Children were laughing. Buildings were filled with lights. The world was alive. Ethan slowly stood up. He couldn't believe it. He had returned. Then someone shouted his name. "Ethan!" He turned around. His sister was running toward him. For a moment, Ethan couldn't move. Then she reached him. She hugged him tightly. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time in 47 days. He wasn't alone. Everything seemed perfect. But then Ethan noticed something strange. The traffic stopped. Every car froze. Every person stopped walking. The entire city became silent. Ethan slowly released his sister. She looked at him, but something had changed in her eyes. Ethan whispered, "What happened?" His sister didn't answer. She looked toward the sky. Then thousands of people slowly turned toward Ethan. Every face was staring directly at him. Ethan stepped backward. His sister finally spoke. "You weren't supposed to come back alone." Ethan's heart sank. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, then smiled. A strange, unnatural smile. Suddenly, every streetlight went out. Darkness covered the city. Then Ethan heard something. A familiar sound. Static. The radio. It was coming from his pocket. Ethan slowly pulled it out. Static filled the speaker. Then his own voice whispered, "Experiment 2 begins now." Ethan looked around. Thousands of people were standing completely still, watching him, waiting, and somewhere beneath the city, something enormous began to wake up. Ethan realized the terrible truth. He was never the last human on Earth. He was the first human in the next experiment. And this time, there was nowhere left to run. The screen went black. But deep beneath the city, a machine began counting down. 10, 9, 8. And Ethan's voice whispered one final sentence. I should have trusted the warning. 7, 6, 5. The countdown continued. And somewhere in the darkness, another door began to open.
Like, share, and subscribe for the next part.